Okay, so I haven't done a rant video in about a year, and I think I'm going to get back to that because I had a lot of fun, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one. This one's going to be about one of the new Nokia Lumia phones. If you don't know about them, they are a series by Nokia running Windows Phone 7 and 8, and I got sent a video and it had the mechanical shutter, and I saw in the title it's rumored to be 40 megapixels. Now, Nokia's already pulled off 40 megapixel phones before, and I'm just as disappointed now as I was back then because I think this is about to be a popular thing. The only two examples I've seen where they really stress the megapixel count are entry-level DSLRs and mobile phones. That's because megapixel count doesn't really matter. On my 550D, it's 18 megapixels. On a 7D, it's 18 megapixels. On a 1DX, the highest range professional DSLR, it has 18 megapixels. 18 megapixels is an appropriate range for any professional photography, or any photography really. Even the Nikon D4 doesn't have something like 8 megapixels. I'm not really sure, I'm not a Nikon person, but I'm reasonably sure it's lower than the 1DX, which is 18.1. But it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, if you can shoot on a 1DX for professional purposes, you know, for doing stuff in the press, or making billboards, or shooting bands at 18 megapixels and you do just fine, then you should have plenty on a phone. You can put 18 on a phone. If they can put 40 on a phone, then they can put 80. 80. They could put 80. They probably will. It's ridiculous. But what's the point of putting 40 megapixels on a phone? You're going to take a photo of you and your friends, you're going to upload it to Facebook, it's going to be resampled down to 72 dpi, going to be stuck with an SD image, and it's not going to look any good. The only reason that you might need 40 megapixels is if you need some sort of lossless billboard, if you need everything completely crisp, which you wouldn't because you need to see it like at least 20 meters away for it to make any sense. But if you might need that, then you might need 40 megapixels, and I don't really see megapixels, and maybe even transitioning into gigapixels, as my friend said, I don't really see that being much of use to anybody because that's way too much data. And if you shoot like a CR2 or a DNG file at 40 megapixels, you're going to end up with like 5 gigs worth of data per photo, and that's not what anybody wants. When it comes to phone photography, you only need like under 20 megapixels, definitely under 20 megapixels. You only need under 20 megapixels for DSLRs, as I said. This is my Nokia Lumia 610. This has a 5 megapixel camera and it does me just fine. It's more than just fine. It's a little bit overkill in my opinion. We can easily get by with like a 2 megapixel camera on phones. We don't need that many. This is my iPhone. This has a, what is it, an 8 megapixel camera? I'm not really sure, I can't remember, but it does fine. It's perfect. I argue whatever this is the perfect megapixel camera for a mobile phone. It takes 720p video, and that is fine. You're not going to want to be able to shoot a blockbuster on your phone anyway. And it shoots photos. I'm not sure what the resolution of the photos on the iPhone are, but I know they're impressive. And now iPhones do HDR photography, and I feel like phones are trying too hard to like manipulate the photography industry. Like, I've seen an app for the Windows Phone that lets you manually expose, focus, manually set white balance via Kelvin, everything on your mobile phone, and that's fine and whatever, but I feel like people are going to start to think that they're photographers. You know, people buy a 600D, then they go around taking photos of their ass and say, hey, I'm a photographer. I feel like people are going to start doing that now, because you know what, you can have whatever. You can have 40 megapixels, you can manually set your Kelvin, you can have a Zeiss Prime on your phone, and it won't matter because, you know, the sensor, that's it, that's the word I was looking for. The sensors are shitty. The sensors are like this big. You're not going to get anything good out of that. You can't get good depth of field out of it. The most you can get is the current Lumias with like f2. That's somewhat impressive, good low light performance. But still, if you're going to want to overtake everything that DSLRs can do now with your 40 megapixels, that's not going to change shit. Small megapixels are horrible. You can do much better with like 15 megapixels and that'll still impress me. What you need is you need a phone like this big so you can put a decent sized sensor in there, like a 35mm sensor, and then you'll be on your way to having a ridiculously large phone, and at that point you might as well just buy a DSLR. So I see no reason on improving our megapixel count unless we're actually going to do something with it. I mean, especially with cinema, because I'm a video guy more than anything else. We shoot 4K now, mostly, for cinema. And that does fine. I can see why we would improve that, because if we can get a lossless image up on the big screen, if we can get it like dot by dot, whatever, then that'd be amazing. But I don't really see a need to. But if we want to do that, then that's great. then maybe we might need an increase in megapixels, which would also call for an increase in sensor size, I presume. And I'm wondering with the megapixel count on phones, that might also change the video functions. Like, we're going to start wanting to shoot 4K in phones now, because we've already reached 1920 by 1080, which is what I'm shooting at now on my DSLR. And I feel like we're just going to keep going. Like, is 2K, 4K, 5K, what's next? Like, are we just going to start shooting raw DNG encoding like Magic Lantern's pulled off with the 5D and the 60D? Are we going to start doing that on the on phones? I'm not sure. I have no idea where we're going with this, but I'm certain I don't like it. But as I said before, you're not going to do anything good on your phone. You're not going to do any like show photography on your phone. You're not going to do any promo shoots on your phone, any portraits. Everything will remain the same with professional gear. It's just that phones are trying super hard to kind of get the same specs, but it won't ever add up. I find it a bit ridiculous now that there's the EF adapter for the iPhone. I'm pretty sure I saw a speedlight adapter for iPhones, and iPhone photography is going ballistic as is. So I don't think Nokia needs to like kind of raise the bar a bit with their 40 megapixel cameras, because, you know, whatever, Zeiss lenses, cool. 15 megapixels, cool. 40 megapixels is a bit much for me, and by a bit much, I mean it's over double the megapixel count for the 1DX, one of the highest range professional DSLRs by Canon. And I'm not saying you can't put cool stuff in small things, like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. That's cool. You can shoot raw DNG on a pocket camera now, and you can get like micro four thirds lens mounts, so then you can put on like TV zooms, Zeiss primes, L series if you want. You can use whatever you want lens, and then it's cool. It's really cool. If you haven't checked out the Blackmagic Cinema Pocket camera, I suggest you do so. And then the Blackmagic Cinema camera is also pretty compact, about the same size as like a 1DC or something. And that's cool, but putting a bunch of shit in a phone, that just doesn't do it for me. Anyway, I just felt like getting that off my chest. So if you want, you can leave a comment saying why I'm wrong and why you hate me, because I'd actually appreciate to hear some feedback as to why you would possibly need 40 megapixels in a phone. So, I might see you next rant, and I'll catch you then.